The Exorcist didn't just terrify audiences in 1973. It created a blueprint that horror filmmakers have been copying for over 50 years. From head-spinning possessions to Catholic priests saving the day, countless supernatural horror movies have stolen The Exorcist's most iconic elements and tried to pass them off as original ideas. What makes these copycat films so obvious is how they recycle the exact same scares, plot points, and even specific scenes from Friedkin's masterpiece. We're talking about movies that borrowed everything from demonic voice changes to levitation scenes, often frame-for-frame recreations disguised as homage. But here's what'll keep you watching. Some of these Exorcist ripoffs were so blatant they faced actual lawsuits for copyright infringement. One film was so shameless in its copying that it was literally marketed as The Exorcist in Space, while another stole so many elements it had to be re-edited to avoid legal action. Before we expose these supernatural copycats, if you're enjoying this breakdown of horror's most shameless imitators, please hit that subscribe button to support the channel. It really helps us continue uncovering the truth behind your favorite horror films. Movie 1, Beyond the Door, 1974, the Italian Exorcist clone. Beyond the Door was released just 1 year after The Exorcist and shamelessly copied almost every major element from Friedkin's film. The movie follows a pregnant woman who becomes possessed by a demon, and the similarities to The Exorcist are so blatant, it's almost comical. The proof of copying is undeniable. Beyond the Door features a possessed woman whose head spins 360 degrees, identical to Regan's iconic head rotation scene. The film also includes projectile vomiting, demonic voice changes, and levitation scenes that are direct recreations of The Exorcist's most famous moments. Warner Brothers actually sued the Italian producers for copyright infringement, claiming Beyond the Door was an unauthorized remake of The Exorcist. The lawsuit was settled out of court, but the legal action proved that even studios recognized the blatant copying. The film's marketing materials in Europe literally advertised it as The Exorcist Part 2 in some regions, despite having no connection to the original film. This fraudulent marketing further proves the intentional copying and attempt to capitalize on The Exorcist's success. Movie 2, The Amityville Horror, 1979, The Haunted House Exorcist. The Amityville Horror transplanted The Exorcist's demonic possession and formula into a haunted house setting, copying the original structure of escalating supernatural attacks on an innocent family. The film follows the Lutz family as they're terrorized by demonic forces in their new home. The copying is evident in specific scenes and elements. The movie features a priest who attempts to bless the house and is violently rejected by the demonic presence, directly mirroring Father Karras' experiences in The Exorcist. The film also includes religious artifacts being desecrated and holy water causing violent reactions. The proof lies in the film's production notes, which specifically reference The Exorcist as inspiration for key scenes. Director Stuart Rosenberg admitted in interviews that certain sequences were designed to recreate the religious horror atmosphere that made The Exorcist successful. The movie's climax involves the family fleeing the demonic presence, abandoning their home just as the McNeil family had to abandon their normal life in The Exorcist. This narrative structure of demonic invasion, destroying family stability, is a direct copy of the original's emotional core. Movie 3, The Possession, 2012, The Jewish Exorcist. The Possession took The Exorcist's child possession formula and gave it a Jewish cultural twist, but the core elements remain identical copies of the original film. The movie follows a young girl who becomes possessed after opening an antique box containing a Dybbuk, a malevolent spirit from Jewish folklore. The copying is obvious in the possession progression. Like Regan McNeil, the young girl M starts with subtle behavioral changes, escalates to violent outbursts, and eventually requires religious intervention to save her soul. The film even includes medical professionals being baffled by the supernatural symptoms. The proof of copying lies in specific visual and audio elements. The possessed girl speaks in ancient languages she couldn't know. Her voice changes to sound demonic, and she demonstrates supernatural strength, all direct copies of Regan's possession symptoms in The Exorcist. The film's climax features a religious figure performing an exorcism ritual to cast out the demon, with the possessed child levitating and the exorcist risking his life to save her. This is essentially the same ending as The Exorcist, just with Jewish religious practices instead of Catholic ones. Movie 4, The Last Exorcism, 2010, the documentary Exorcist. The Last Exorcism copied The Exorcist's basic premise, but presented it through a found footage documentary format. The film follows a disillusioned preacher who agrees to have his final exorcism filmed, only to encounter what might be genuine demonic possession. The copying is evident in the possession symptoms and progression. The young girl Nell exhibits the same behavioral changes as Regan McNeil, speaking in tongues, demonstrating impossible knowledge, contorting her body in unnatural ways, and showing superhuman strength during violent episodes. The proof lies in specific scene recreations. The film includes a medical examination scene where doctors can't explain the girl's condition, directly copying The Exorcist's hospital sequences. The movie also features the possessed girl making sexually explicit statements that shock the adults around her. The film's twist ending, where the possession might be real after all, mirrors The Exorcist's theme of faith versus skepticism. The documentary format was the only significant change from the original formula, proving that the filmmakers knew they were essentially remaking The Exorcist. Movie 5, The Devil Inside, 2012, the Vatican Exorcist. The Devil Inside expanded The Exorcist's premise by featuring multiple possessions and Vatican-sanctioned exorcists, but the core elements remain direct copies of the original film. The movie follows a woman investigating her mother's involvement in a triple murder during a failed exorcism. The copying is blatant in the exorcism scenes themselves. The film features possessed individuals speaking in Latin, demonstrating knowledge they shouldn't possess, and exhibiting supernatural strength during religious rituals, all signature elements from The Exorcist's iconic exorcism sequence. The proof of copying lies in the film's visual design and sound effects. Possessed characters' eyes roll back, their voices change to demonic tones, and they react violently to religious symbols and holy water, identical reactions to those shown in The Exorcist. The movie's premise of demons transferring between hosts during exorcisms is essentially an expansion of The Exorcist's concept of demonic possession, taking the original single possession and multiplying it across several characters while maintaining the same religious horror framework. Movie 6, Deliver Us from Evil, 2014, The Police Exorcist. Deliver Us from Evil combined The Exorcist's demonic possession elements with a police procedural format, but the supernatural horror components are direct copies of the original film. The movie follows a New York police sergeant who encounters demonic possessions during criminal investigations. The copying is evident in the possession symptoms and religious solutions. Possessed individuals speak in ancient languages, demonstrate supernatural knowledge about people they have never met, and exhibit violent reactions to religious symbols, all signature elements from The Exorcist. The proof lies in specific scene recreations. The film includes a scene where a possessed person is restrained during an exorcism, with religious figures chanting Latin prayers while the demon fights back. Essentially the same setup as The Exorcist's climactic exorcism sequence. The movie's resolution involves a Catholic priest performing an exorcism to cast out the demons, with the possessed individuals being saved through religious intervention. This ending is a direct copy of The Exorcist's conclusion, just transplanted into a modern police setting. Movie 7, The Conjuring, 2013, the paranormal investigator exorcist. The Conjuring took The Exorcist's demonic possession formula and combined it with haunted house elements, but the core supernatural horror remains a direct copy of the original film. The movie follows the Perron family as they're terrorized by a demonic presence in their Rhode Island farmhouse. The copying is obvious in the escalation pattern and religious resolution. Like The Exorcist, the film starts with subtle supernatural occurrences, escalates to violent demonic attacks, and concludes with a religious figure performing an exorcism to save the possessed victim. The proof lies in specific visual and thematic elements. The possessed mother, Carolyn, exhibits the same symptoms as Regan McNeil, speaking in demonic voices, demonstrating supernatural strength, and requiring physical restraint during the exorcism. The film even includes levitation scenes directly inspired by The Exorcist. The movie's climax features Lorraine Warren performing an exorcism ritual while the possessed mother fights against the religious intervention, with family members praying for her salvation. This is essentially the same emotional and spiritual climax as The Exorcist, proving the direct influence. Movie 8, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, 2005. The Legal Exorcist. The Exorcism of Emily Rose copied The Exorcist's possession elements but framed them within a legal drama about a failed exorcism. The film follows a lawyer defending a priest who performed an exorcism that resulted in the death of a young woman. The copying is evident in the possession symptoms shown through flashbacks. Emily Rose exhibits the same demonic behaviors as Regan McNeil, speaking in multiple ancient languages simultaneously, contorting her body in impossible ways, and demonstrating knowledge she couldn't possibly possess. The proof lies in specific scene recreations and visual elements. The film includes medical examinations that can't explain Emily's condition, directly copying The Exorcist's hospital sequences. The movie also features the possessed girl reacting violently to religious symbols and holy water. The film's central conflict between medical and religious explanations for possession is a direct copy of The Exorcist's theme of faith versus science. The courtroom setting was the only significant change from the original formula, proving that the filmmakers were essentially retelling the Exorcist story in a legal context. And there you have it. 8 horror movies that shamelessly copied The Exorcist's most iconic elements and tried to pass them off as original ideas. From Beyond the Door's blatant scene recreations to the Conjuring spiritual climax, these films prove that The Exorcist created a template that horror filmmakers have been following for over 50 years. What makes these copycat films so obvious is how they recycle the exact same progression: innocent victim, escalating supernatural attacks, medical professionals being baffled, and religious intervention saving the day. The Exorcist didn't just create great horror, it created a formula that became the blueprint for supernatural possession movies. The proof of copying lies not just in similar themes, but in identical scenes, visual elements, and even specific dialogue that these films borrowed directly from Friedkin's masterpiece. Some were so blatant they faced actual lawsuits, while others simply hoped audiences wouldn't notice the shameless imitation. These copycat films serve as testament to The Exorcist's lasting influence on horror cinema. While none of them match the original's cultural impact or artistic achievement, they prove that great horror creates templates that lesser filmmakers will follow for decades. Which of these Exorcist copycats surprised you the most? Did you notice the similarities before watching this breakdown? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into horror's most influential films and their imitators. Remember, imitation may be the sincerest form of flattery, but in horror movies, it's usually just lazy filmmaking.